Well, let me continue with the third strategy, uh, role play and simulations. In fact, here there are two strategy, role play and simulation. However, since these two goes almost together, so I like to explain together in the same presentation. So probably you have to be careful about this. Maybe in many places you will see role play is being explained separately and simulations are being explained in the different uh, sections. So however, they had some kind of overlap, therefore I wanted to talk together. Let's begin with role play. As you know, the role play is very well known to us. We have seen a lot of role plays on the stage. People try to act on a certain case, certain concept, and then try to explain by dramatizing. So that is what you call the role play. Very simple. Role play, motivates the students to actually to learn about the certain concept by expressing through actions. Let's look at what it says. Begin with the role play. Role play, each of us has a unique manner of relating to the people, situations, and things. When we try to imitate the other people, pretend to be doing something in creative situation, it is called role play. Very simple. If you are asked to be a principal of a school and then play a role of a principal, your thinking, your actions would change to that situation, because on that situation you are made to be a principal. So likewise, that's how we try to play the role of somebody, and then we also try to look at a context and situation and develop our, the presentation according to the situation. That is what you call the role play. uh, let's look at how it is being defined. Yeah, and then so it is a different. Role play is a different from formal dramatizations. Please understand that drama and the movies are slightly different. Here, role play depends on the children's interpretations of things and experience, because he or she cannot become exactly like a principal. What I have put an example just before, one cannot become a principal exactly, but they will try to put in their own perceptions and they try to interpret things in their own style. So that is why role play is slightly different from dramatization. Dramatization is trying to memorize things, how thing was done, and then try to imitate exactly. That is what you call dramatization. Mostly we use written scripts and text sometime, and we need only oral practice. Role play can be different types like a dialogue, monologue, conversation, skit, uh, puppetry, pantomime, and the games, etc. So please think about. Let's not think about, because here some of the I mean, like what you call role play looks mostly close to the language, but however we can also use in the science, because I'm going to tell you some examples towards the end, because in science, there are various people engaged in to control the some environmental pollution, taken as an example. uh, Then, if you look at NEC, look at teachers, look at farmers, look at bureaucrats, look at politicians, how they play different roles in controlling the air pollutions, water pollution, or environmental pollution. So, if you look at in that way, and then if your lessons is based on pollution, then this will become so clear in the classroom. Different peoples are talking different perspective of environmental pollution. So that is what is in the role play in science. So role play can be employed in all the teaching subjects depending on the nature of the lessons and level of the students. Yes, this is all depends on how creative is the teachers and how well he can plan his or her lesson. The example of role play is a dialogue. A dialogue would be given and the students will be practiced sometime and read out dramatically in turn. I mean, this is another thing that people, teachers or the uh, role play can bring about. Teachers can give all kind of dialogues, and then the students practice and that they act. So role play can be many different types. So it all depends on the how teachers use. So role play is always imitating somebody and bringing the script, either the ready-made script or student brings their own dialogues. This is what you call the role play. Let's look at a simulations, which is a very common word for us. Simulation is actually literally meaning is a simulation is imitating or mocking of situations in real life. But here you and I are very much familiar with the simulations on the internet. Yes, that is also one example. Simulation are simplified patterns of the human interaction in a social process where player participates in the roles. They are with the open-ended. They are more open-ended than usual role play and even improvisations. They are centered around some problems and issues. So here, basically, when they try to simulate, sometime even it becomes so complex situation where they try to act on a certain social issues and social problems similar to that of a role play. However, there are, if you look at some dictionary definitions of the simulation is a situation in which a particular set of conditions is created artificially in order to study the experience something that could exist in reality. This is what exactly the computer simulation is. Today we try to look at most of the things. For example, osmosis, where it is being simulated and then we understand the concept so easily. Similarly, there is also simulations of movement of the earth and then planets, sun. So we are able to see it because it is being simulated so well. Therefore, simulation is some kind of situation where it is being, particular condition is being created artificially, and that's how where we are able to study and our own experience can be relate to that situation. Alright, simulation can be best defined is a role play in which the process of teaching is displayed artificially and effort is made to practice the important skill of communication through a technique. So simulation at times when we try to simulate ourselves certain situations, certain cases, we try to give some kind of a dialogue about situation. We try to talk about the situation, play of the situation, and try to improve the situation through play, role play, and that is called a simulation. Simulation could be in the form of games. See there, now simulation can be game because some situation where you play and learn things, like you can play games of what you call prey and predators. A few kept as predators and many are the prey. So you can run around in the limited ground. Predators run, chase, and kill the prey, and then you can look at the time. If the predator is weak, they can kill many predators. If the predators are very weak, they will not be able to kill. They take a lot of time to actually to get their food. That is what you call in a form of simulation, in the form of game, where you are teaching a concept of foot chains and the foot waves. So this can be see there. You can conduct an interview. You can have an improvisations of things, interrogations, panel discussion, debate, seminar, workshop. These kind of things are called in the form of a simulation, because all these activities can come through a question. Actually, the because of the you can discuss about the problem. All right. Now the role play and simulations has got a certain procedures to do things. So first is warm up where they are being explained who is, they are given explaining who what could be done, and then discuss about themes, instructions, getting things ready. So that is called preparations or the warming up things. So first is warming up. Number two, warming up meaning whole class will be engaged to discuss about the simulations and or the role play. So they will discuss about the certain topic, what they are going to do, how they are going to do, and then they try to become almost ready, and then to, what theme they are going to discuss about. So this is what things happens in the preparation. So it will be engaged whole class. Then from the whole class, there are certain few participants are selected out of the class, and they are assigned a task. A certain task meaning they are given a certain roles. Then after giving the roles, students are given them to go through certain texts, and then try to understand the text, and then they have to actually bring out the dialogues. Third one is to set up the stage and make things ready, because they have to act in front of the class or they have to act on the stage. So that kind of things has to be prepared. Then so once everything is ready, then they will enact, they will practice, they will play, and then show their talent. They try to bring this all the text or the context in the form of dialogue. So they will act in front of the class, and finally there will be evaluations and the discussions. So when the teachers and some group of students also, because they are being observed, and then they will have a certain feedback. Once there is a feedback, if things are not happened as per the text, then there is a feedback, and then they again reenact and play again. So that is the evaluation part, is the final stage of role play and simulation. Now the differences is the role play is shorter and simpler than a simulation. Simulation is more organized and usually for the higher classes. Sometimes simulation can be a prolonged role play. I mean, like, it's a role play, part of the role play. There is a character in both the plays, alright, both role play and simulation. Both role play and simulation are useful in teaching learning, not only the language but also teach the science. So let me give you just an example here. It is role play in science. In science, the role of the forester, farmer, local leaders in conserving forest, probably if they are acting on that, and that is what you call the role play. We are going to see that how they are going to bring their perspective of the conservations by different by putting themselves under the foot of a different peoples. So here is students acting as a forester, acting as a farmer, acting as a local leader. So there they try to interpret things, and then they try to share to the whole class, and then this is what you call, we can actually, this is simply talking about the biodiversity, conserving biodiversity by different peoples taking different roles. Alright, the advantage of role play and simulations. Theory input in practice by acting out. Theory can be, they know the things and they are able to practice them. It is motivating and realistic because they are able to understand the situation, able to understand the challenges and difficulties those different peoples are facing, because they are able to put themselves into the situation of somebody. It is a learner center. Teacher is just a facilitator, because here students themselves try to bring things and then bring for the discussion, because they learn about the concept and try to bring in a form of dialogue. Cooperation and socializing, because in the form of acting, because they need to understand others, they need to bring and write arguments. So there is a lot of socialization, there is a lot of cooperation, a lot of understanding each other, accepting views of others. So this is what social skills is being learned through this role play and simulations. Now, what are some of the skill learns are articulations, debating. They should be able to articulate their own thinkings, and they should be able to debate well, argue well. They should be also have the fluency, journalism's knowledge, and the negotiations and logical sequence of ideas and spontaneity. Creativity and oration styles would be enhanced in innotations and actings. A person has to act, so therefore such skills are promoted when these two methods are practiced, either the role play or the simulation. So this is very important for the students to learn in their life. uh, Also, the student develop confidence and do away with the shyness, and then it's a one time two time process. In the beginning people will shy away, and slowly once they have practiced again and again, they gain a lot of confidence. It helps also to help their develop their personality. Yes, people who are quiet will become very open if you go on practicing such kind of methods. Disadvantage is Disadvantage of the role play and simulation is, I know this is a time consuming, because you need to prepare a stage, assign the role, they need to learn the concept, and bringing out some concept in the form of dialogue is quite challenging for the students, so they need a time for preparation. So this is quite time consuming and not suitable for all the lessons. True, it's very understandable, because you cannot apply all the time this, but for a variety you can also have role play and simulation time and again, because looking at that advantage, you need to incorporate in your lessons, because a student learns so much of an advantage, because particularly this debating, arguing, and then logically sequencing their ideas, spontaneity and orations. These are some of the skills which is required for the students in near future. So it is this is not workable if the class size is too big. All the students are good, all the students are not good at acting, obvious, and therefore some students don't take so much of interest. So that's one of the disadvantages or the weakness of the role play and simulation. It can be chaotic if not structured and controlled well, because if the planning is failed, then things will not work. So these are some of the disadvantages. With this, I hope you are able to understand something out of this. Probably I would urge you all to go through these the separate notes of the role play and simulations, read it in a details. Probably please do not depend on the PowerPoint is just a few lines that I have picked up from the detailed notes given on the strategy and skills. So I urge you all to please go through those details, and if there are some queries, let's discuss later in the